Thank you very much. Minister, I'd like to warmly welcome you to the House, and it's also my first chance to congratulate you on your role. I want first as well, like others, to open by giving credit and tribute to all of those teachers, principals, parents also as well, who have been working extraordinarily hard over months to try to prepare for reopening in difficult circumstances and going above and beyond. And within that, of course, as well, there are the cleaning and maintenance staff of schools and, crucially, the school secretaries. And I would say, Minister, this is a clear moment when the case that has been strongly made in the last Oireachtas around school secretaries who do such vital work, who are the locus and exchange for information between parents and families in the schools in many cases, and who, as you can imagine, have been doing extraordinary work on that, they really need to be rewarded and recognised. I also think it's very important, as was said, that we look at the SNAs. If we are valuing this work, if we're calling this essential work and effectively asking everybody doing this work to take additional risk, we have to show that it's valued. And within that as well, this comes to that question of staffing. Substitute teachers should not be in a situation where they don't know which school they might be or when they might need to be. We really need to move to a situation where there are long-term contracts for additional staffing linked to specific schools. And I would suggest, Minister, that that's something that should be looked at, linked with that question that others have raised of class sizes. There certainly should be no classroom. We know the OECD average is 20. We know that there's cases of 23, 24, 28. There should be no classroom with over 25 students in it this year. And additional staff should be provided on contracts linked to specific schools for the year. And that also means that there's a little bit of reserve there in the school if a teacher, for example, or a number of teachers become sick or have to self-isolate. It's really important that we actually increase the capacity beyond the minimum in terms of class size numbers. And class size numbers will be crucial. We need to be going below what would be necessary so that we can deal with the additional issues that arise. The ASTI have raised many of their concerns, but these are concerns right across the education system. Minister, as well, in relation to the class sizes, another issue which would assist in relation to class size pressures is to look at situations whereby there is additional physical capacity within a school. Perhaps there are additional rooms, perhaps there are meeting rooms that are not normally used or other space. In those schools, it won't be every school, where there's additional physical capacity and the addition of an additional staff member would allow class sizes to be reduced. That should be looked at. Another issue which has been highlighted is the use of outdoor classrooms and outdoor activities. And Minister, given that even since the roadmap was launched, the science on ventilation, on aerosol transmission has been making it very clear that it may be 18 to 20 times safer to have outdoor activities. We really need a rethink, and we know that individual schools such as St Patrick's and Wicklow and others have piloted that idea of having an outdoor classroom as an option. But let's look to how that might be supported and capital resources where necessary given to schools to make that an option. But the other issue which I think Senator O'Reilly raised as well, it is important in respect of a classroom situation may not be for everyone. And at the moment there really does seem, I think for many people, they feel there's a stark choice between homeschooling, which many parents know that they are not qualified to do, it's not their skill area, they may not, and in classroom teaching. And we do need to look at a remote and distance learning option, which may have occasional visits to a school, but may have a large number of days that are taken in remote and distance learning for situations where there are either students who are particularly vulnerable, or they have a family member who is extremely at high risk or vulnerable, and indeed for teachers who are at risk and in an at-risk category. And I know that in the case, for example, of, we know in San Francisco and the United States, they've looked at setting up additional schools for a year, which will be remote learning schools, with students, of course, having the option to return to their original school next year. I'd like you to look at that, Minister. Minister, in terms of the Leaving Cert, I think it's a really good example, and I hope to engage with you further on the question of equality and algorithms and looking at how we might address that. I think it's that public duty on equality in relation to algorithms is really important. I would recognise that there is additional places in many of the colleges, but the fact is there's not enough additional places in terms of the arts, in terms of many other sectors. We know that those who did their Leaving Cert last year, and particularly in many cases in areas like social care and the arts, which have not got additional places at the moment, that really needs to be addressed, Minister. We want to make sure that students do have that option to fulfil whatever career path might be appropriate for them. I thank you very much, Minister. My final point, I won't get to speak on transport, but I would simply say, in addition to these schemes, in terms of getting to that 50% capacity, doubling the number of spaces on the road, can we look to cycling, safe zones and investment in that, perhaps, for example, through social protection and a grant for families on the family income supplement that would allow them to purchase cycles?